by leaving the three middle strings open to what musicians call sympathetic resonance. That the G chord sounds so pleasing only on guitar is in itself significant. Songs written in G are very often guitar-based, just as ones in the equally tactile piano key of E-flat are most often written there. E-flat being a key you can play on guitar only with some semi-expert barring. Trained musicians, transcribing Beatles songs onto paper, dutifully put the more harmonically sophisticated G6 chords in as passing chords. The reason is that John Lennon would simply lift his fingers from the fretboard in between chords and strum the open strings, which happen, as he wouldn't have known, to make that chord. I too played by lifting fingers and wrote a song that, I realize now, depended on the play of an open sixth chord and a suspended major chord made with two fingers. I had no idea that this was what they might be called, or what I might have been doing. But I had more fun and a more audacious sense of harmony than I do now when I know the names and reasons. Nor did I know that two of the most inventive of songwriters of that moment, Joni Mitchell and Keith Richards, were both playing at the same time, creatively, with the open tunings I had stumbled on by mistake. Joni, because an early attack of polio had left her with a hand weakened in making bar chords. Keith, because of a hand weakened in making bar chords by causes more immediately proximate than childhood polio. Then how astonishing it was to discover that the crude arithmetic of the chords, choose one note, then count three up, then count to five, and then play all three notes at once, produced complicated emotions. By this simplest of rules, the second and third chords in the scale were both inevitably minor, while the fourth was major, which hit me with a thunderstruck emotion that I can still remember, that I can still feel, not least because the rising, poignant chord patterns of Blackbird and Here, There, and Everywhere were right there, under my control, produced by fingers roaming through a preordained system. Like an ant climbing up the Eiffel Tower. The iron girder's immutable, but the direction the ant goes, chosen by the ant. I could have learned all of this in music theory class, but it would not have had a tenth the power. I had entered a dream labyrinth. No, not a dream, because the whole point was that it was work, manual labor, but where, by making shapes, signs with your hands, you stumbled on primal scenes, familiar songs, beautiful sounds, one after another. No one asked me to do this. No one wanted it, and doubtless those in my life weren't sorry the door was closed as I stumbled along after music. But the sense of happiness I felt that week remains resonant, if not always cheaply available to me, to this day. 50 years later, I am not a much better guitar player now than I was then. But that week's work, and the months and years of self-directed practice on the instrument that followed it, became a touchstone of sorts for me, and a foundation for almost every meaningful thing I've done in my life since. My own account of guitar chords learned and life begun seems to echo in the experience of so many other people. A woman I know recalls learning to sew her own clothes by the same process I undertook, breaking it down into small, manageable tasks, getting the pattern, choosing the fabric, working the machine, until you found yourself making another kind of harmony. In this case, wearing that beautiful thing you've made. The experience of breaking down and building up she learned then informed her later professional work as a film editor and producer. The Scottish poet and aphorist Don Patterson tells rapturously in his memoir of a working-class boyhood of becoming improbably obsessed with Japanese origami. I remember turning a page of an origami guide, he writes, to find a photo of an origami elephant. I was speechless. It was less an elephant than an essay on elephantness, a distillation of all that ever was or would be elephant. It was the form that threw its shadow on the